All right. Thank you. As my friend Warren says, we just separated the fly shit from the pepper, and I'm glad you're here. I've heard some names tonight that I was glad to hear, among them John Fowler and Charlie Plymell. There's some other names I want to mention. Bunny Fowler, Max Douglas, Rob Rusk, Wayne McCura, Robbie Shaw.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Robbie.
And talking about beatniks, I've had a lifelong romance with railroads, Kerouac and Cassidy. My own trips from Lawrence to San Francisco on the Santa Fe. I was in Concord, California Saturday looking at the blood on the tracks of Brian Wilson, and my romance with the railroads ended Saturday in Concord, California. I've been writing some poems lately. I didn't know what to call them, and a friend of mine said, "You're writing rants." And I've been hearing a lot of ranting tonight, so I'm going to rant as well. An original title of this poem was, "I don't know how to spell these names, but I'm pissed off anyway." And it's also a result of listening to too much of the NBC News. I don't want to hear about Andrei Sakharov until Leonard Peltier goes free. I don't want to hear about apartheid until Big Mountain is clean. I don't want to hear about mosquito Indians while the genocide of Hopi continues. I don't want to hear about Palestine liberation until Yellow Thunder Camp finds Lakota liberation. I don't want to hear about Afghanistan while 7 Chicago kids commit suicide in 1 week. I don't want to hear about Ethiopian starvation while Peabody Coal starves West Virginia. I don't want to hear about Polish solidarity until there is Detroit solidarity. I don't want to hear about the rainforest while Mono Lake bleeds over my shoulder. I don't want to hear about Israel aggression while Hewlett-Packard poisons my well. I don't want to hear about missiles in Germany while the last dairy farm in Sonoma County is plowed under. I don't want to hear about Star Wars while I step over the woman and her child at 4th and Howard. You get the message. I don't want to hear about it over there when every night of the year I sleep with it next to me. It's a love poem. We've heard a lot about sex tonight. One of the most boring things I've heard over the last year is one poet talking about what the inside of another poet's thigh tastes like. It's called Doing It. I think the first time I ever seen anything doing it was dogs. They got stuck. I seen rabbits doing it fast. I seen cats doing it noisy. I introduced an art student to a poet, and she lived in the Lawrence, Kansas Holiday Inn lobby. I read a poem about Gary and Massa Snyder doing it. I read a poem about Harold Norse doing it with Arab boys. I wrote a poem about George Kimball doing it. I seen horses doing it, and it looked like a lot of work. I watched a woman trying to get 2 Great Danes to do it, and it was messy. I seen a bull doing it with a cow who didn't seem to notice. I did it with a woman once who didn't seem to notice. I seen Charlie Plymell watch me do it in San Francisco. Someone told me swans are the only other beings that do it because it feels good. I had a rooster who died doing it. Hens ate him. I never seen coyotes do it, but I heard them sigh after doing it. I seen myself doing it in shadows and mirrors. A couple at a Motel 6 woke me up doing it in the next room. I've seen 2 men and a woman do it. I've seen 2 women and a man doing it. I've seen 2 women and 2 men doing it ad infinitum nauseum. I sat behind a couple in a movie doing it. I seen a couple doing it in the backseat of a cab. I was driving. I never seen anyone doing it on TV. I don't have cable. I never heard anyone do it on the radio either. I seen a lot of people who wanted to do it at poetry readings. I don't want to see Ronnie and Nancy Reagan doing it. But I think they should do it more often. I don't want to see Howard Cosell doing it. I don't want to see Dianne Feinstein doing it. Come to writing this, I don't want to see anyone doing it. I myself am going to go home and not do it. Think about it, maybe. This next poem is inspired by a line from a movie which featured the last public appearance, or the second to the last public appearance, of the true great American hero, Lenny Bruce. And the line is, I never met a dyke I didn't like. I like dykes. I like dykes who ride their bikes and scare me with their visible tattoos. I like dykes who wear tight jeans, pints of whiskey stuffed in their back pocket. I like dykes who take a group conscious to see who will pitch the next inning. I like dykes that dress to kill and smile as the bodies slump to the floor across the coffee shop. I like dykes who write poetry which points the finger at me and my kind. I like dykes who ask me how I am and mean it. I like dykes who call their lover girl and me one of the guys, even though it confuses me. I like dykes who wear the clothes I wore in high school. I like dykes who wear bleached out tails, headbands, bandanas, vests, pleated pants, separatist t-shirts, and tuxedos on a weeknight. I like dykes who are femme. I like dykes who are butch. I like dykes who are lesbians. I like lesbians who are dykes. I like dykes. I do like dykes. This poem was written on the anniversary of the assassination of Archbishop Ramirez, Archbishop of San Salvador. Then the bullet does exit his body, wangs off the cross to stir the smoke. Steel blue the incense, steel blue the graphite smoke, rising to the pulpit. And on the pulpit flies, and on the cross flies, and on the chalice flies, and on the archbishop flies, and on the flies blood, and in the blood wine, blood into wine, blood run in the wine, blood thinned, wine thickened, blood into wine. This is no miracle. Este es no milagro. To the flies, a favorite and common mix, drinking from the archbishop, slumped on the floor in his most favorite place. Some Kansas poems. On our Kansas step, elevators guard a landscape which never realized the harvest. A vision which ends in a silo, real brains blown into that landscape. This is for Perry Kitzmiller. Something about Perry and me in the full bed of a grain truck. Milo just put up, relaxed and out of the wind. He tells me that it pops like corn in an iron skillet with a little lard. Now town to Perry is Topeka, and he doesn't go there. Seldom. So in fact, his attempt at mingling does not extend beyond an occasional basketball game where his daughter cheerleads. Something about Perry and me in the full bed of a grain truck, waiting on the wind, or was it dinner from the house? He chews and I smoke, looking across the river to the elevator. "Drop me at the shop," said Perry. "You take the load." And then it was, I heard the pride which makes it hard to let go a crop. The game is over. Kansas City won 6-5. I'm happy. I was trying to read Frank O'Hara and George Brett kept getting hits. Of course, this ain't no museum in New York, but then again the moon is up, and later I'll walk out to it. Lust at 39. That's an old poem. As before we hide, this time a dirt road, low water bridge, warm stone beneath, hawk voyeur, Kansas insect roar. As before, we're into it. No one knocks or rings, no one. Until old garfish, Snappus gigantus, floats by, reminds us not to swim in it at all. John says there are no back roads left between Lawrence and Topeka, nothing but suburbs. Brother, that ain't the place the way I left it. Through that window all the world was caw, and the beauty of that world, Oakley floating in a pail of rain. I have a little note at the bottom to explain what the word caw is, but I don't think I need it tonight. It's another caw poem. Impending scene, past and reflected in the river Oxbow. Still, so still the cat hunkers. Cold, so cold that Oxbow, the hens rough and stare into the north. Let me bank a fire, pull down brandy and sweat memory. Tomorrow in the drift I will know this storm. This is out from Kansas. Ken Irby was out at New College a couple of years ago talking about Walt Whitman. Reminded by this cold room to that wind, is it the construction of the globe which whips into the middle trough? No doubt to me the wind east of the Rockies, unlike the others. Here now listening to Irby on Whitman and the names brought out, Greer, Moritz, Gridley, that make the connection. Later, mid-afternoon outside for a smoke, this street so bright as if that Kansas snow reflected as once it did from Orient, looking south to the valley where we hid on Roy's land, excited by poetry as Walt was ever with the teamsters he fell for. Thanks, Wayne. Oh, an LSD eye story. This one's for you, Wayne. I came out of an LSD blackout, I think it was in '65 or something over here in East Lawrence. And I found myself sitting at the kitchen table and George laid before me a bowl of, I think it was either purple or green rice. He's always been a vegetarian, and at this time he was into food coloring. And I looked up, and sitting with me at the table were George, Robert Creeley, and my dear friend Mike Oshard, all of which have glass eyes. I realized I was the only one at the table with two working eyes. I immediately thought that the mutation had taken place while I was out there for the last few hours, and that either something was going on or I wasn't quite finished with what it was I had started earlier in the evening. So I grabbed a bottle of something and went out in the backyard to meditate on that mutation that was going on for a while. So there's a Kansas hippie tale. This refers to New York and to Paul Blackburn. You know, I came across his newly published, Paul Blackburn's newly published collected works, and it was a treasure to find that book. It begins with Ariel, me, and 4 cats in bed. That has never happened before. An hour later, she's into Laurel and Hardy, and I'm on the third hand of solitaire when it comes. Blackburn or Kelly, would they mention the third cup of coffee, the first smoke, Camel? I mean, is that a line? Paul sticks, and I go into John's room for the date he died, and today's date. Did this begin on the 12th? Well, it's a cold, rainy day. I ought to light the furnace, but hate to admit it. Instead, spend the time on East 7th Street, that room in the back where I slept in complete ignorance while he died. Long way from here to New York City. 8 years, a long time as well. For the second time this week, great flocks of blackbirds stop to roost and feed out back the house. Later in the day, 2 days after the election, I pull on the long johns, and this is ritual, Midwest in all of it. Put 'em on the Queen's birthday, take 'em off St. Patty's Day. Takes me back as well to Paul, glancing out the window. I think, he says, it's going to rain. What returns is the full length of East 7th Street, and McSorley's, where he pointed out obvious mistakes. I called myself a poet. He bought me a couple of ales. I was fishing in the Milky Way last night, using what I think to be pretty strong thoughts, good bait, which sometimes work on catfish. I mean, there has got to be someone out there besides me and my kind. Across the way, a man lifted a bottle of rye, doing a kind of dance in an obvious drunken rout. Yet, as can be seen, a celebration, an attempt at some ancient human right to try and stop these 3-day rains. At the center of Santa Rosa, the old women speak Italian, and I catch the word como again and again. No more than the input of sound which turns on some common connection with Europa in my past. That the impression becomes emotional, and surely reminds me that emotion from whatever source is welcome. Knowing that what comes up in sensory pleasure certainly has a comfort which must remain long enough to heat up that space from gut to throat. Being close to the coast, the fog comes in to shut the day. As I surrender, sleep becomes an attempt to locate an Italian grandmother in my Scotch past. Well. Aha. Three poems for Anne on her return. 1. Sometimes no more than morning sun broken by cottonwood leaves. The shadow laced across a sleeping friend. Oftentimes this surround reminds me that alive is spiritual. Sun through leaves. 2. The outlandish clouds flood a horizon, overwhelm the ancient landscape, scrape. Here we stand, slack-jawed, open to that land and the history presented. There is no warning can be found to what this does. Once seen, viewed, and then re-seen. The print in mind. 3. Someplace now recalled, lazy in an empty field, the red sun covered. Now surround that sun with the threat of storm, expected to be both violent and terrible. To remember, alone beneath that cloud, unrolled like a black carpet. And today, this view goes to the friend who quietly asked, "Ever been to New Mexico?" Thank you. I didn't know if I was going to read this or not, but I'm going to read it because it was written, I think, in 1965 when I came here. Weird spelling, I tell you. We came to Lawrence like whatever the wind brings, bouncing and whirling down a one-way street through a slow rain. Yet near the country house 5 miles south of town, rain turns to snow, and the moon swings round, greets us as we leave the car. On the hill, a perfect farm, where we discover quiet for the first time. And Karen, wrapped in maroon and blue, her distinctive coat of arms, beckons us to a stove which soaks up snow from off our coats, and the first bit of paranoia from within. We have come 500 miles from the city of Chicago, which chased us to this vortex plain. But why Kansas? Some, not all, ask. And we answer with stories, crossing the street twice in one block to avoid the man and someone who wants to score, and all the heady scenes goings on in parks and set-up acid cribs. Oh, meat packer of the world, oh, bare-chested cop on the roof next door. We have come from an anonymous city to become anonymous here, now relaxed with the good people. It is difficult to be forgotten. We worry about not offending. Dedication. People are people, Father used to say. Correct, Pop, you're right again. You forget the laugh, the touch, or the moment when two become one for the sparkle of an eye. Come, Papa, follow us to see love and concern. Come, Papa, come with us to see friendship holding hands. Come, Papa, to where I write this poem, a gift which I cannot give to you, but to a child of dawn. That's an old hippie bone. Shit. Well, here's a recorded part of a recorded conversation, and it's looking out my window when I used to live in downtown. I moved to downtown Santa Rosa, California, and much to my pleasure discovered that it was the only part of town that had prostitutes, and I like that. I like that. The hooker on the block gets into just that. Dorn called them dumb fucks in pickup trucks. Suddenly, maybe it's the evening shadow. I want to shout, no, not him, asshole, asshole, and worry for a half an hour until I see her coming towards me against the warehouse wall, swinging the pack of Marlboros loose, and smile down from the window, nod. You all right, she asks. Does it show, I say. Yeah, it does. Thanks, Rosie. You be good, okay? Yeah. Dumb fucks in pickup trucks. Well, let's see. Jesus. I had another poem about my father I wanted to read, and I thought I would as long as Robert Bly wasn't here. He's not here, is he? I haven't worked everything out with my father. I haven't worked everything out with myself. Here it is. Well, here it is. 3 things about my father. Every time I saw him, I was either pissed, scared, or embarrassed. This is neither confessional nor occasional poetry. It is necessary for me to tell you if I am to end an inheritance which tonight is moving toward a violent end. And this is an occasional poem about my mother. Faye Otto McCrary died recently at her home in Janesville, Wisconsin. She was 83 years old and suffered a variety of illnesses, medical and social, including sexism, ageism, and in the case of her departed husband, fascism. The remaining family, with the exception of her youngest son, will gather for the usual. He will walk into the foothold, Jose, for the distinct lack of interest shown during research. And there's a quote. You eat to live and you live to eat. Fucking joke. All of it. Fucking joke. Smoky. Guadalupe Riverbank, San Jose, California, winter 1985. Fire, and quick he is above the fire. Happens with astounding regularity under the bridge in San Jose. 2. As Christ rose, he left behind the bunny. Even the droppings are cute in green cellophane. Crackling skin above mesquite, sauce al moutarde, chic in Berkeley. And under a bridge in San Jose, chow. 3. Le Chat Noir, black pepper and sage. This is not Warner Brothers Entertainment. To the cat, wrong place, wrong time, under the bridge in San Jose. 4. Oh, happy spring, a young child laughs as mallard flaps about the pond. In the bush awaits an older man with some day-old bread. Duck a la dough, not a bad meal in San Jose under the bridge. 5. The concrete blackens above a fire, below the traffic. Who would think a parrot could be so greasy and cooked down so far under a bridge in San Jose? 6. If you look on it as pork loin, the right rear leg of guinea pig fills a need. If you look on it as demonic, you haven't been under a bridge in San Jose. 7. Big old possum died up the road. A big rig Joe smile a lot. Tenderized by that tire, old possum sizzles on the fire in San Jose under a bridge. 8. If one is lucky at 5 o'clock behind the fin and feather shop, buy the handful from the dumpster, small turtles like crab, cold, cracked under a bridge in San Jose. And 10, interview. It looks just like, yeah, so what? Well, every day in the papers. You hungry? What's it taste like? What's it taste like? You hungry? Where'd you get it? You hungry? Dead of winter, San Jose, under the bridge. There aren't any of these in the back, and I'm not giving them away. Well, you all know the song Ring Around the Rosie, eh? The Ring Around the Rosie was the spot that appeared on people when they got the plague. And the pocket full of posy was the herbs they kept on their bodies to avoid the plague. And ashes, ashes all fall down was what came out of the sky when they burned the dead bodies. And the first 3 lines interspersed with the song are found newspaper headlines. With enough shovels we could all survive. Ring around the Rosie. Nuclear war may well be a sexually transmitted disease. Pocket full of posy. When the rain comes, it will be harmless. Ashes, ashes all fall down. 4 out of the 7 fetuses interviewed claimed no opinion. The question being, are you human? In the laboratory, the virus entangles. Embryos spoke about the terror of low temperature. Ring around the Rosie. This is not the home of the brave. This here is not the home of the brave. Surgeons as assassins go directly to the source, glistening stainless steel to slice through the woman, splayed beneath the blade. Remember the photos? Blade glistening to slice through the uterus, to slice through the fetus, to slice the egg, to slice the gene, literally turned inside out for the race. And then, with a smile, they drop the blood-stained steel and walk away, whistling the tune. They're better off. Designing the package and the product and the commercial, composing the hype, Bristol Myers is a new surrogate. Babies with blue eyes, blonde male babies with blue eyes, male babies with blue eyes, blue like Kmart special. Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posy. Sing those left behind, unable to reproduce. The old, the poisoned, the genetically unacceptable. Wait for the rapture of a preacher, drugged by the white church. Insemination, in semen, in vitro, in sanitation, insanity, bred and rebred. What other society, was so obsessed, with guns and breeding? Ashes, ashes, all fall down. Thank you very much. I love you.